Alright everyone, this is another reason why I really like Trump. He called out war profiteering the other day, and I respect him greatly for it because he's the first president in a while that's directly and explicitly called out profiteers of war. The last time technically was JFK and Eisenhower as well. Both of them warned of the power of government in its corrupted, perverted form. Obama kind of alluded to it. Of course, at least on the surface, he pretended he was anti-war. You didn't get that with W. You didn't really get it with Clinton either. You haven't gotten it with like McCain, who ran against Obama in the first sense, and then Mitt Romney, they were unabashedly pro-war. Hillary Clinton was a war hawk. Joe Biden, a little bit less maybe, bless you, a little bit less maybe than Hillary Clinton, but still, he's not like Trump. Trump called out war profiteering, specifically in the higher echelons of military contractors and so forth. So we're talking the people that go to the $1,000 champagne bottle meetings with Raytheon execs, people who work with Lockheed, people who work with Boeing and so forth that do military contracting. War profiteering is something that Democrats, the legacy media, corporate libs, and the left have all consistently called out for decades. Trump has made them, in the last 48 hours, do a complete 180. What did CNN do the second that Trump said this? Trump is disrespecting our military on a level no other commander-in-chief has ever done. Link in the description if you want to see something fucking surreal from a CNN contributor. So he's cutting the corporate media to back the military-industrial complex. And the funny thing is, this person goes on to try to say, well, all the people that are posting that Eisenhower speech from, 70 years ago at this point, he wasn't actually talking about that. He was just warning about the military-industrial complex in general. What the fuck do you think the military-industrial complex refers to? By the way, initially, it was the military-industrial educational complex. The idea was that there was a systemic corruption potentially creeping into U.S. and indeed Western civilization culture that would become jingoistic, in which the people's best intention to defeat communism would turn them into a bunch of communists. Essentially, the authoritarianism of the Eastern Bloc would essentially be replicated in the Western countries because people out of fear, and this has happened a million times, would give government limitless power, and power would pervert the government, and the freedom would be lost, and then really the spirit of the United States as it had been before in the Ave Columbia days would no longer be a thing. This has happened. War profiteering is ongoing as we speak. To his infinite discredit, Donald Trump has not yet stopped more of these conflicts. Now, does he have the unilateral authority in all cases? No, but I would like to see him press the issue more. This is what I like to see, therefore. This is extremely good to me. It is nice, finally, to have a commander-in-chief. One of the best moments of Trump's presidency was like 2 days after he was elected. You remember this. You probably don't because the legacy media realized how effective it was, so it kind of shoved it to the back burner and didn't want to talk about it. Remember when Donald Trump, when queried about Russian authoritarianism, warmongering in the Middle East, which they do. It's funny how many people refuse to acknowledge that Russia does the same thing that DC does, only less effectively because they have a smaller budget and smaller manpower pool. When queried about this, he said, oh, you think we're blameless? And I thought it was magical at the time. I think I made a video about it actually the next day. Because for the first time we had a president who was willing to acknowledge that mistakes had been made by the U.S. government in a nonpartisan sense. He was calling out actions that by and large were the result of the Bush administration and in recent years, post-Reagan, the Republican Party, not the Democrats. Obama liked war, but at the very least he shoved it to the side, pretended it wasn't happening, and didn't invade many new countries, other than Libya and kind of Egypt and Syria in a roundabout way, but they were proxy conflicts as opposed to like a shock and awe situation. I love this. Trump has gotten the corporate neoliberal media to defend the military-industrial complex. Let me ask them this. Under what auspices would you claim that war profiteering has not happened over the last 20 years especially? In the wake of 9/11, roughly. Did Dick Cheney never exist? Does Raytheon not exist? Military contracts, they're never no bid. All the corruption and systemic over-budgeting and imperialistic warmongering that you yourselves have reported on for 19 years, that never happened? You're going to gaslight the entire public and pretend that war just began in 2016 when Trump was elected? Bush never existed? Obama never existed? Clinton never fucked around in Yugoslavia. Reagan never invaded several Central American countries. The Iran-Contra scandal never occurred. Profit is made in war. These companies, and by the way, there's nothing wrong with profiting off of war in the general sense. If you're causing war to create profit, that is evil. It is scummy, immoral, wrong. It also, by the way, diplomatically is dead weight around your country's neck like a fucking albatross. If you're simply profiting because you happen to make goods and products and a war breaks out and you happen to be able to supply them, that's not problematic. I'm a capitalist, I have no problem with it. Attacking and destroying other people's lives, causing millions of refugees, burning villages and shit like our proxy fighters over there that have been completely curb stomped at this point in Syria did, destabilizing a country that was at least kind of calm. Now the same in Libya. These things are evil, and a huge amount of money is made off of them. Why do you think that Barack Obama himself, supposedly a great peacemaker, remember, he swore up and down he'd close Gitmo, he'll bring our troops home. He never did that. He never did any of the fucking things that he mentioned, other than throw billions of dollars to a bunch of fucking banks and car manufacturers, half of which failed anyway, by the way, never repaid their sums. Obama himself, why do you think he was selling lethal aid to the rebels in Syria while trying to push gun control in the United States? There's more profit to be made selling missiles to a bunch of miscreants over there that are trying to bomb each other into submission. Make some more money. Arms manufacturing is very profitable. Of course, I prefer it when regular law-abiding Americans are buying weapons. I think that they should be able to buy all sorts of cool stuff that they can't now. Automatic weapons? Hell yeah, we should be manufacturing them for civilians. Absolutely, you should have a 22 knockoff style Tommy gun, fully auto. It should exist. It would be fun. Closest you can get right now is a 110 round drum and then a Gatling crank. It's still pretty cool, but it's going to jam half the time, so I wouldn't use that for hunting or topical defense. But Trump is completely correct. Again, this is an example of Trump conforming to sort of like the politics that I myself centrally believe in. I've been anti-war unabashedly all along. Never supported the invasion of Iraq. It was a stupid idea. It had nothing to do with 9/11, although it was sold to us as though it did. Huge profits were made. Not for the average American, but certainly for arms manufacturers, certainly for the aeronautics industry, certainly for the military itself when it came crawling before Congress to ask them for a bigger budget. Did it trickle down to the troops? No, they still make peanuts. Troops didn't get the money. Lower officers didn't get the money. It wasn't used on non-lethal aid. It wasn't used on trying to make our soldiers not die. Hell, I still remember the Dragon Scale armor incident back in, what was it, fucking 2004? So, where a body armor that was clearly superior in some combat situations was shafted because, I believe, if I remember correctly, because the people had the wrong political beliefs. This stuff happens all the time. Of course there's profiteering going on. It's constant. It's nonsensical, and to claim that it's not, to claim that war profiteering doesn't exist in the United States echelons is nuts. CNN is nuts for trying to cover for the military industrials on this one. You're nuts. You've got to be crazy. It's objective, and the funny part is, this plus them ruminating on the apparently Trump's supposed comments on the military. Oh well, people are suckers if they go to war. Apparently, it appears to have been lifted from Godfather 2. Look it up for yourself on Twitter, and I shit you not, it does appear to be 90% similar. And apparently the dude that wrote the original Atlantic article is really enamored by Godfather. Put two and two together and see if maybe this is a fiction. Maybe it was dreamed up by the writer to begin with. And there is no anonymous source. The anonymous source was he sent himself an encrypted email from a fucking kiosk at the library. He sent himself a telephone message from a telephone booth 2 blocks away or something. This, I'm sure, happens. I know for a fact that it happens with regards to hate posts on the internet. I know for a fact that sometimes it's the pundit themselves. They make a post saying the N-word and then they screen cap and say, oh my god, look how hateful 4chan is. Look at this hateful thread on Reddit, or something like that. Trump is correct. Profiteering happens in war. It's not uniquely American, and it's not every person in the upper military brass that's getting Cuban cigars in exchange for recommending some sort of military action, but it does happen. Didn't Mattis immediately, once he was relieved of his position, didn't he immediately go and work for a defense contractor, if I remember correctly? Do you remember Blackwater? Their involvement in Iraq? No, there was no profit to be made there. This private mercenaries work for free. Dude, profiteering and war go fucking hand in hand. To insinuate that Donald Trump is wrong is to ignore the last 20 years, especially of U.S. history, and really the last 100 years. It's been happening. Dude, the Bush family, they sold oil, fuel to the Luftwaffe back then. Do you remember have you ever heard of the business plot? Maybe you should look up the business plot and Prescott Bush's sales to the Luftwaffe before you tell me that war profiteering isn't a thing. And these war pigs can fuck off. That's about all. Peace out.